welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Matrix Momentum. Tell us where you're tuning in from, and let's welcome all our team here. Shay, Dr. Future State from Ireland. Shay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Chief Transformer. All good in Dublin. The weather is starting to improve. There's a few, we may be coming out of level 5 lockdown very, very soon, which will be fantastic. We've been in level 5 since Christmas time. So I think everybody's getting itchy feet here just to get out and about and meet people and become normal again. So there's positivity in the air. So we're all good. Thanks.
That's good. This is what we need to hear, some positivity in this, and on all what's happening. And I'm sending all regards to everyone in India and all our friends in India, that they stay strong and things can only get better. Isabella, how is everything in Colorado, USA?
Hey, it's actually very surprisingly, we just had another snowstorm, and I'm so glad we have power, electricity, and things are going as normal as they could be.
Good to hear. Our event, how's everything in Germany, in Berlin?
Things are pretty same as across the world in Europe, and better, like at least today we had a little bit better weather, and I hope like by this time there should be a spring, but it's not there yet. But that's also holding a lot of people being like a little bit relaxed in their backyard, which is also not possible with this weather. A little bit, it's cold, and I hope weather can also change a lot and bring some happiness to people. The other situation that we don't know, like when that can change better, and yeah, that's how it is. And new regulations, new curfews, and new things as usual.
As usual, but hopefully things will get better. Our friend today, he did not was not able to join us. Ahmed Khalid from Saudi Arabia, of course. Thank you, Ahmed, for your wishes, and we hope you are feeling well. And of course, you'll be with us next week for sure. We have also Isaac from Kenya. Hi, Isaac. Thank you for joining us from Kenya. So, as you know, Matrix team, today we're talking about sales strategy. We're talking about customer experience, about all that, what's happening in sales and how to excel in sales. And we have a case study. Shay, can you introduce us with this case study?
Yes, thank you, Mamzi. So this is like a case study, which I believe is very relevant, not just for, it's a medical device company, but I think it's relevant in many, many sectors at the moment, where they have global supply chains and they have issues with supply. They have issues with customer trust, customer experience, and they have issues with FDA and citations, right? So their industry has been shut down in their particular type of medical device, right? And they're trying to gain customer trust back at the moment. Now, this particular company, they've got a head office in Dublin, Ireland. They have a supply chain in China, multiple layers of supply chain. Their suppliers are suppliers, and their customers are in the US. So the challenge for them is, how do we win back customer trust in this product, in the industry? So it's not just about in their company, it's in the industry. So that is the challenge that they have at themselves. And I think it'd be useful to start looking at this in a very, very systematic way. So if we look at it, Hamamzi, from like, if we look at it, the people, and when I say people, I'm talking about the sales people, and I'm also talking about the customers, those people. So if we're looking at the layers of people, and then we look at the process, and then we look at the technology. How does that sound? The people, process, technology. How does that sound?
I think it sounds great, and this is the three pillars that all the business goes on. And of course, people, if you put trust in your employees, if they really know the product and are passionate about the product, they can be able to turn everything around. But you must put your trust in them, delegate to them, train them, and things should pick up.
Yeah.
What do you think, Isabella, from your leadership standpoint?
Absolutely. I think we're having multifold of trends that are happening right now. We're seeing interesting things, what's happening internally, right, with the internal stakeholders, and then how the dynamics and relationship is changing the makeup. Also, not only how we sell, but how we deliver and present the products and services. But also we're seeing huge shift what is happening right now also from consumer side, what they are expecting, what's their experience, and also what their expectation is, right? We're seeing things that I think will never be the same in terms of not only cycle, but also in terms of the credibility of organization and credibility of the brand. We have more than ever competition on so many products and services, and the ones that are standing out and where the customer loyalty is going, they're going to be the ones that identify and exude and walk the talk with those values. So more than ever, we have to buckle up and demonstrate consistently that stellar leadership.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, Isabella, because one of the challenges they had on doing a current state analysis on the business, right? Their sales process before this whole situation was administration. They had so much customers. It was just ring, take the call, put up the order in the system, and deliver and supply. That was their sales process. Now the phone isn't ringing anymore. Now they have to go out. They need to understand, to your point, these new wants from these customers that they've never done this before. So this is new territory for them. And it's not only new territory for them in a normal environment, it's new territory in getting over this FDA challenge and customer trust. So it's a fantastic opportunity to learn. You know, it really is.
Yes, I agree. I agree, Shay. It's of course a big challenge for them to get over this FDA thing, and customers, especially, maybe they need also to grow their customers outside of USA. They need to solve all the issues that they're having. The customer experience. They need to focus on maybe a customer relationship management software or something. They need to work things out. They need to get things moving on. A lot of efforts required to get things back on stage, but I think mainly systematic sales, and you are one of the experts in that for sure. And maybe some interference with technology, as Aravint also for sure worked on something like that before for some other companies. So what do you think, Arvind, from technology when it comes to sales and customer relationship management and all that?
Yeah, so like most of the time, since my work is mostly involved in starting with the innovation from the scratch and developing until it goes to the market, very often people who create innovations of product, they think a product is only about the product itself, but it's not the case. It's always about the customer service and the customer support that you provide along with your product. And during this sales process, or in whatever the B2B or you know, like I always remember some of my colleagues, they always say that B2B, B2C, B2B2C, or B2G is always a human selling to another human.
Yes.
So it's in that way that every product has to, the product development as well as the product package should always think about, the sales should think about how the customer is going to be taken care of. Like, you know, once we had one product which we went in Amazon. We were selling in large quantities, 5,000. Then the first month, like 5,000 or so. Like it's a starter product, and the proper sales process was actually like, you know, how they were selling this product initially, saying that this is a device that's going to be is a remote, it's a smart remote, this is going to control your smart devices. And then they started selling this product pre-sales. Yeah, so I'm talking about pre-orders and pre-sales. Once they started selling this product, when the product was kind of in a stage to be sold, the battery life of the product was only for 3 or 4 days.
Oh,
So if no one is going to buy a remote for 3 or 4 days or battery, people would just pay 200, 300 euros for a device that can hold the battery for maybe probably like 6 months or 4 months. So
yes.
that product and the experience of the user experience should be part of the sales process and how they sell, especially when they do these kind of pre-sales. So that's a very important aspect, I would say, in terms of technology development. The sales and the business team should be in line with the engineering and the science and the manufacturing team to understand what exactly the end product is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love what you say, Arvind, because that the first thing is to get that link, right? So that's one of the first things that it's great saying people, process, technology, right? But they all have to be connected. They all have to be. If you think about it, right? Your supplier, your salespeople, your product designers, right? You're all part of the same chain, right? So you need to work together to make it better. You need to be in unison, right? So even if you're talking about getting a massive supply chain moving again, so you have to sell first of all, but then you have to start predicting, well, what can we sell in the first 3 months, in the first quarter? And then, because if you've got a supply chain that's going to have a lead time of maybe 12 to 16 weeks, you need to start thinking ahead. Well, what do we need to start doing now for preparation for the sales we're going to get in 3 months? So everything has to be aligned. And then this company had the challenge as well of getting people to trust. So not only did they have to sell, they had to get trust back in it. So what the challenge then was, well, how can you break it down between the people, process, technology, and put lead times on it? Well, what can we achieve in sales in 3 months? But what product can we get to the customers when we get the sales in 3 months? So they're not waiting another 3 months for it. So how do you get all these links together? How can you be smart and make sure all these crossover points, touch points, are working well together?
True, Shay. And this is like needs a sales and operation planning also process, like we were talking about, linking all the departments, talking to the production team, giving a production plan to the team, and even I can say more than 3 months. 3 months is like the execution part and the lead time, the longest lead time. But we need like a minimum year plan so that everyone there is plan for procurement of material and all that. All this need to be put in under perspective to get things going and running for this company, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one thing that I just wanted to add to the conversation that you gentlemen are mentioning, we're also obviously seeing customer-centric ethos, right? If those are not in place, and we're seeing a lot of new hot companies popping up, but if we still have this very strong customer-centric e-commerce businesses or strategies that we're supporting, we have new interesting trends that people will still be loyal to the brand, knowing that they're coming in place in terms of competition, just because they really wanted more than ever to be that ethical thing. Also, right now, being a huge aspect, more than ever, of C-suite is being engaged in actually in their products and services. And as we see change in landscape, as we mentioned in this particular case study, Shay, we're having manufacturing in China, completely different global custom expectations and standards. Then you're having you as a headquartered in Dublin in Ireland represent European moves. And yet you have more US consumers, which is completely another approach and strategy. How do you on the end deliver that, right? And what did change in recent months and recent years? And a lot of companies that on global scale adjust their game. They are continuously to product to see and product services that's going to meet demand. One that flipped up when they're not keeping up on their premise, on their values, and what they're actually doing on the day-to-day completely losing traction. We're seeing trends even with the top Fortune 100. A lot of shuffling right now. The ranking, the sales, the volume, as well as companies' reputation.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. And I'm going to add to that as well, Isabella. You talked about the goodwill with customers, right? That you create. Well, I'm going to extend that as a supply chain. That I often say you should treat your suppliers like your customers, right? Because we're all talking about partnerships. Everyone has to chip in. Everyone has to share the load. They've all got the same goal. They want to get the supply chain moving again. So it's all about shared load for shared benefits. And the only way you do that is if you treat your suppliers like partners, like they're the extended arm, like they're part of your business. They're not a supplier who deliver a product. You work together to brainstorm on how can we do this together? How can we share load? How can we do strategic stock Kanbans, for example, so we can protect the supply chain at different stages of it? But it's all, to me, about partnerships. I always say treat your suppliers like your customers if you want to succeed.
Sorry, guys. I think I have to tell also from our audience, we have really bad voice audio quality. Maybe like Isabella, you can keep your microphone muted during, when you.
Too much. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Because also like from the audience, we have maybe like all of us can keep it mute.
Sure.
Shai, can you try? Like we still have these. Can you just mute it and check? Hello. Still, it's has this. There's an echo. Still,
it could be just a signal. It could be a Wi-Fi issue as well. It's a bad signal.
Yeah, we can try to mute and let me try to mute and.
Yeah, is it okay? Like, I think when we mute when one person is speaking, it's better. So let's keep it.
Yeah, we can try to mute. We can try to mute when someone else is speaking. I can take control of that. So as Shay was saying, it's not only upstream, also it's downstream to distributors, and we had several companies I was working with. The sales team was very close to the distributors, of course, as they are the customers. You have to be very close to downstream and customers, as they also are in control. They know what are the trends, what is happening in the market. So partnerships should be upstream and downstream, and this is the whole cycle, of course, and the whole chain from supplier to customer. So if I can add to shade this point.
Yeah.
So, and also we have here Ahmad is saying it's great summary. We have here Rick Harty, I think from India, is joining us also, and we have here Beth from USA. I think also she's joining us, and thank you. Isaac is saying it's clear now, so I think we have a good positive feedback from our audience. Thank you, Isaac, so much.
Yeah, no, you can't beat technology to do the right thing when it needs to, right? And it doesn't. In Ireland, we call this Murphy's Law, right?
Yes.
What can go wrong will go wrong.
Exactly. As much as we try, and as much as even technology is very much now. Everything is controlled by technology, and it's moving very rapidly, the improvement in technology, but still you can have these glitches every now and then, but it's okay, and this is all about going live, and it's the experience, or the customer experience, we can say. So let's talk a little bit about customer experience. I have a beautiful example about customer experience, especially IKEA, for example, is one of the best, I think, models in customer experience. I go there with my family. I can put my daughter, she can play in the play area, and we go, me and my wife, and suddenly you find yourself buying with a lot of money and enjoying this. So I think this is the definition of customer experience, that you enjoy what you are doing, and paying and giving the company their profit, and you are enjoying at the same time being there, collecting the pieces of furniture from there, from the warehouse. So everything's clear for you, and the product is clear, and the experience, total experience is amazing. What do you think about customer experience, Shay, and how it can help this case study that you were talking about?
Well, it'll do everything for this case study, Himanzi, because it's like, if you want to predict success, right, there's two elements of that. You need to have not just a valuable sales process, but also really strong customer buying process, and you achieve that by delivering a really good experience. So one of the strategies I always talk about, well, if you want to predict success, you map it out. So we're getting into the process side of things now. And I talk about, like, where does the customer experience start? It doesn't start when you sell the product. It starts at the very start of the sales process. So you have to be considering it from everything you do in your sales process. Every touch point has to benefit the customer. There has to be value. So the thing I always say is, how can you add value to a customer before the sale? You know, what information can you give them? What can you do to solve their problems? How can you predict that before you go into meetings? How can you show the company you are and the trust you can deliver, and then stick to your word? All these things you can predict by building really strong cross-functional process maps. You don't just do this in your sales team. You bring your customers into this process. You bring your suppliers in marketing or product development or whoever, supply chain. You all do this as a cross-functional team. You don't just leave these things to chance. You have to map success, build success. And then when you map what you think your first current best version of it, you don't stop there. Then you're working on, keep tweaking and improving all the way. And over time, you will have the most amazing sales process and customer buying process, along with customer experience. You predict success in this environment. You don't just leave it to chance.
Excellent points, Jay. I totally agree with you. And tweaking on the way, this is very important, because I can see in some companies, they just put the sales budget at the beginning of the year. They make the discussions for a week. They go out like in a fancy hotel or something and go make the discussions, put the numbers, and then we make like quarterly meetings or something. But you have to make minimum monthly meetings. There must be a lot of follow up with the sales team or with the people, with the sales force on the ground. You must see what are the problems, and tweak the forecast, tweak the numbers, tweak the whole system on the way, because you will not get it right at the first time. Right, Isabella, Arvind, yes, I think these points are gold from Shay.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, we have Valeria also joining us from Peru. Thank you, Valeria, for coming in, and Nidal, hello to all. Thank you, Nidal, for joining us. Nidal is saying, if companies keep the improving aspect of their customer experience feedback, definitely the customer experience will improve. Yes, Nidal, absolutely.
And that's a fantastic point, Nidal, right? And one of the things I do, and like I believe, I'm a systems thinker. I believe the only way to achieve success is end-to-end systems thinking, right? And my background is from manufacturing, and there's a lot of skills that I learned in manufacturing that I apply to every part of business. And I do problem solving in sales. And to Nidal's point, so if the customer experience isn't correct, like, we record this in a database, what went wrong, right? And if every like sales rep or account manager did this with every meeting over the course of the week and over the course of the month, at the end of the month, you've got amazing data to see what are your top 3 problems in customer service or customer experience. And then along with that, if you're selling and customers aren't buying, and after every meeting you took down the top 3 reasons why the customer didn't buy from you, at the end of the month, you've got amazing data to say, what were the top 3 reasons? What's the top 20%, the 80-20 rule? And then you problem solve it. How can you remove these resistance factors to buy? And this is it. You problem solve to improve and improve all the time. These are amazing skill sets, and nobody uses these outside of manufacturing. But I'll tell you now, the best results you'll get with these manufacturing tools are in your service part of your business.
Totally, totally. And if you remember also the 5 whys, and you must, if you face a problem, you must ask 5 times the why till you get to the core of the problem and the root cause of the problem. And we
Yeah.
have Ahmed Musa joining us. He's a great friend and a supply chain expert. He's talking about the voice of customer, and echo Ahmed Musa here. Yes, it's not about the company capabilities. The voice of customer, of course, has to be
Absolutely.
considered.
Yeah. And just the 5 why for people who don't know who haven't heard of the 5 whys. What I say to my clients when they hear it for the first time, I say, "Do you have any kids?" And they go, "Yes." Well, kids ask why to infinity, so you should be very familiar with the whys. It's the same strategy. Kids are great. They've got this great ability to question everything that we seem to have lost as adults.
And curiosity that continues, that constantly question why we're doing what we're doing and why we're maybe not doing things different way. It's opportunity to also revisit what can we let go and what can we improve upon, because sometimes smaller, simpler things, that those warm, strategic touch points can make so much difference. And one of the things that we're seeing, and specifically here in the United States, that is also creating domino effects across the globe, Shay, and Arvind, as well as Hamsi, we're seeing a trend where we really wanted to see more brand activism. We wanted that digital footprint that is reflecting what company actually cares for, who they care for, and how they care for. And they also wanted to see more case studies, more commercials and infomercials around things that they're doing to adjust and pivot with the current trends. So all those little stories and all those little pieces of information that are really coming, because right now what we're seeking, all of us want simplicity. We wanted the best value, but we don't want to jeopardize quality. We wanted to convenience, right? Because this world of virtualization changed also how we consume information. So that digital footprint, I honestly think it's a huge opportunity for companies to really shine and show those little clips and snippets of those relationships. But one thing that I want to just highlight, and I'm not sure how this resonates across the globe, much maybe in the Middle East region or Asia or Europe, but we're seeing so much need right now for the leaders really to be more visible and show up from their position. The messaging that comes directly from them and their teams, so that they know who is behind this engine and how is their voice being heard and disseminated across.
Amazing point, Isabella. I like that, especially the leadership to show, and because sometimes the leadership is totally isolated from the company, from the people. They are not going publicly speaking. They are speaking behind closed doors, maybe with the sales team only, or favoring a special group of people or top executives, and they are totally isolated from the factory. For example, they are isolated from the customers, from the consumers. We see only a few big leaders that they have this ability to go on public speaking, and we all know them for the big companies, and we have a big example that they have the capability to go and speak and go engage in social media, go on, for example, in Clubhouse and talk to people, and this creates trust, and it's all about, and you create the community that trusts your brand, then this will of course, the value of your brand and the value of the company will totally increase with that. That's very, very, very important point. People, you will gain trust. Word of mouth will not only retain customers, but you will add a lot of customers. What do you think about that, Shay?
Absolutely. And again, like in Ireland, the best sales is like referrals. When you do a good job for somebody, they're going to tell their colleagues, well, if you really want to get looked after, this company is the one to do it. Like we talk about, one of the sales strategies we use in Ireland is you need a critical mass of customers in the beginning. So you work hard to get those customers and those case studies, because then if you give them a really good customer experience, they'll be your best salespeople, and that is a fact. And then we get into what's called the referral model. So if you get referred to by one of your colleagues or one of your customers, you have to remember there's 3 people in that equation. It's not just the new person. Everyone has to win. So you have to think, well, how can I help this new potential customer win? And I do that because I have to make the person who recommended me look really good. So you have to please two people now, not just one. Many people forget that other part of the equation. And if you can get that three-way cycle working really well, that's a huge way to develop good business, because brand advocacy is always one of the best ways to sell. Yes, you need that critical mass of push sales when you start a new business, or if you're coming out of a major disruption too, you need to get that critical mass, but then your service and your product should do the rest of the selling. And that's the way you should be. That's the way you set up your business. You don't just, again, you cannot leave things to chance, especially when you've got all these supply chains. You've got responsibility, not just for your business and what's in your four walls. You have responsibility for your supply chain, and again, you have to be in it together to make it better.
I totally agree, and I like the point of after sales and after service. This will carry on the brand. It's very important to have a strong customer service team, to have a team following up on your website page if there is any complaint on your product, on your service. This is kind of maintenance for your brand and for your image as a company. Totally agree. We have Portia here. She's joining, I think, from South Africa. Thank you so much. We have a question for Isabella from Nidal. Are you ready to take it, Isabella? He's saying, as a leader, do you think leaders today are far from what customer experiences due to the fact that they rely on reports only? I like that question. So
I have a question for Isabella. Okay, I'm checking it.
Yeah. Do you think it's important for leaders to be in the shoe of a customer?
Yes, due to the fact that they rely on reports only. Okay. So a great question, Nadal, and I'm so glad you bring in that up, because not only reporting is one of the passive ways to gather information and data, but really we need C-suite executives, leaders in general, and decision makers need to be more active and more proactive on multiple layers within an organization, specifically during current time. One of the things is, because they're driven to keep the momentum, they have to figure out what worked 2020 so that they can continue to build and ramp up things up and go beyond just involvement, look in statistic, financing, reporting, and then making decisions from there. They need to more and more engage and integrate with their teams and really with everybody, because all philosophy of the problem that we're seeing is having always focusing on external stakeholders, right, and boards of directors and customers, etc. But we have internal stakeholders, which is every single contributor in organization. So if we're not paying attention to internal stakeholders and what they're contributing and how they're contributing, and knowing and keeping pulse of changes, we will be blind spotted. And you spot on that type of way of existence in the past was going and passing by, but without ever maximizing potential. And where else might be opportunities, building and expanding on those relationships further, right? Specifically, as more they're removed geographically, like we were talking about this case that Shay outlined, that we're dealing with manufacturing in China, headquartered in Europe, and then consumers mostly of the product and services in US. So one thing I just wanted to say, on contrary right now, who is doing very well and what they're changing, they are really seeing that conventional approaches are changing, not only from outside, but even internally, right? So like, for example, we're seeing some companies that are really helping out phenomenally, that are changing the shifts. Not only how is that communicated, that is timely, that is relevant, that is inclusive, that gives different perspective, but also that really brings the whole team. Because if we cannot experience now perspective from whole team as we're doing on this conversation with different expertise, we will be blind spotted, right? Because we will just go with what we know versus what we could know or what should we know, right? Which minimized the risk and also allowed us to really come up with the solution strategically together. So if it's Shay to figure it out something himself, that doesn't mean that his decision will be bad, but might not be as inclusive or as effective or as successful if he includes included Aravind, Hamsi, or my opinion in that process. So this is also a great way to really rethink old way of thinking and allow that roles and contracts and how things are changing and interaction around the sale. And honestly, the best companies that are thriving, they're not selling, they're just leading with the value. And that value is what really makes tremendous shift right now. And as a result, that is very attractive. That is very enticing, and it's appeal to that. And one thing that I also want to point it out: brands don't sell products out itself, but CEOs, the leaders, executives, people behind it, their visibility, not just in speaking, but in footprint, in messaging, in quotes, in article, independent voice, in opinion. And as a result, when people buy into it, they go and cherish and honor the brand. And that is where brand actually has phenomenal standing grounds. And right now, a lot of those grounds got shook, and it's time to really revisit. Are we leading with that voice? And what voice is saying? And how is consumer internally and externally reacting to that?
Yeah. That's great points, Isabella, of course. And I think, thanking you. And of course, it was really clear about the image of the brand and how the CEOs should not only communicate, but their quotes, everything should be aligned with the company and should be there. They should be present and alert.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And just to add to that, sure. I think those CEOs have to live those brand values, right? And the whole C-suite, again, and I said this last week, that one of the things that I find really restrictive in businesses, when you have an organizational chart, you have the CEO, then you have the sales director, then you have marketing, then you have operations and purchasing. They're all put in their pigeonholes, right? But to me, they should be wrapped around the table all the time, and they all discuss things together in real time, so the supply chain know what's happening in sales, so they know what they need to do now to get stuff in 3 months' time. There needs to be that glue. So having them pigeonholed in these little boxes, they need to be in this, like a little bubble, but not bubble against the rest of the business, but they need to be in each other's faces, in their ears, in their messaging, so everybody knows what's going on every single day, the week and the months. They need to know this and be that close with each other. And as Isabella said, live those brands so they're visible, so they're acting what they're saying. Everything what they act is the same as what they do and what they say. It's all married, it's all image together.
I totally agree. The image of the company, they work together as a family, as a tribe. It's the communication between the departments. These kind of things is really important, and a lot of companies have these issues: lack of communication, ego issues, and all that. And this really affects the whole culture of the company, and creates a lot of toxicity inside the company. And at the end of the day, you don't get your numbers, or people are not satisfied. And if there is any success, it's not sustained for a long time. Yeah, go ahead, Isabella, I'm with you.
And just one thing.
Yes, Isabella. I think we lost her for some time. Yeah, Isabella.
And one thing that is happening since we lost the host.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Technology, what?
Yeah.
Maybe I can say something in the meantime.
One thing that is also.
Yeah.
I just. Please go for it.
Well,
maybe we can.
We'll ask. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mute
you
so
want to
that
take the question of our friend Ahmed Khalid. He's not here, but he wants to give us some hard time and questions. He's here with us with his spirit. He's talking about
basically. I wanted to say, the customer perspective, the consumer perspective. It's putting them at the center it changes from organization to organization and the size of the organization. So most of my work is involved in creating innovations from the ground up, and lifting them
Yeah.
off the ground is a different game. And in most of these disruptive innovations, you cannot ask the customer whether they would, what is their opinion, because they have no idea what this would do, because they have not imagined, or they would have even not seen something like that in many cases. So usually in such cases, when we look at such extremely disruptive new things, the first version of the product is developed with the tested with the people called we call it a user-friendly test. So these are the people who have an idea and they are open to new ideas, and they're a group of people. They're not connected with the company, but like could be the friends and friends and families of the team who's been developing. And then that helps the organization, usually the startup and SME, to lift that innovation off the ground. So you have to go without really asking the customer, because also they would not have a lot of customer base. They would not even have whether this thing is needed, like people would accept it. Of course, most of the time they will say they don't need it. But like if you look at most of them in disruptive technology that came to the market with so much of objection from the customer. So this is also that angle for organizations and companies innovating something completely disruptive.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. And innovations, I've worked on it in some FMCG. You need to put prototype and something to test with consumers that you think they are early adopters. And there is research companies that can help you, that you can have these early adopters and test with them the product. And I know it's different from one industry to another, but as you said, you have to test the product, and maybe the end result will not be something totally disruptive to the market. But this is the kind of risk that you take it. But in the middle, you have to take like a little bit like a focus group or something to take opinions, and through these opinions you can tweak the innovation.
yeah.
That's a great point.
No, it's absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to tie it all back to our friend Khalid, who's missing tonight, his question, right? Because it's a really powerful and important question, right? Like you've got a challenge now in your business. You have to get sales, you have to drive revenue. And like I worked with a lot of clients where they say we need more sales, right? But what they really mean is we need more profits. And when you change that thinking, then you start thinking differently about how do you work this challenge, right? Because if I was to look at, if someone said to me, you need to get 10% more sales, people would go, well, like, okay, we've saturated the marketplace. We've got our demographic full. We can't do any more. They're just very narrow-minded, tunnel vision, because they think that's all related to customers. But when you break it down into profits, well, what are the key drivers that you can influence to actually deliver more profits, right? And there's about 3 to 4 and sometimes 5 drivers in every marketplace, right? So if we pick a few, what happens if you said to your customers, I'm going to increase the cost of our product by 3%, but we're going to give you 15% more value? Would that be good value to you? I guarantee you most customers would say absolutely, right? So that's the first thing. So we're going to talk about, forget about 10% for a sec. We're going to talk about, let's look at 3% in 3 or 4 different drivers. So if you improve your cost or increase your cost by 3%, right? But then on the other side, you're going to say, well, how can we reduce our cost of service, cost of supply, cost of manufacture, and cost of sales by 3%? How do you do that? And you develop strategies to reduce your cost there. Then the next thing you're going to go to, well, can we actually reach 3% more in the marketplace? And the reason why that's really important is because it's order of operations. So if you increase your product by 3%, then you go, well, I'm going to increase my lead projections by 3%. You're going to increase your conversions by 3%. You're increasing those conversions on a higher set of leads. So it's compounding straight away. And then you're going to talk about, well, how am I going to get more product there quicker? And then you can also talk about the frequency of sales. So if you do one a month, for example, and you add 3 or 4 more cycles to discounts or quarters, These are all the different drivers. And I guarantee if you compound that 3% in those 5 or 6 that I mentioned, you'll get about 25, 30% compounding. So people, when they say, I need 10% more, don't just say it's 10% more sales, it's 10% more profits. And what are the drivers that we can influence to increase that? It's not always about more sales. It's about more value and being smart.
Amazing answer. I echo here, Ahmed Khaled. Brilliant. Very well said, Shay. Cost efficiencies must be considered, and like you said, from all kind of the supply chain, from supplier to customer, and it's all about giving and driving value to the customer. It's not about increasing 10% or sales or something like that. Totally agree.
But then I have a question. How do you make that work for the business, right? Well, why does that work for the business is the question, right?
Yes.
Well, when you start looking at all this in the background, the goal of business, for me, the goal of business is to continually improve. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards in this world, right? So the whole point of doing this, looking at your not cost of sales, but your cost of operations. If you reduce the cost of operations, you're not really reducing the cost. You're actually just really increasing the capacity, right? So many companies use lean techniques to like remove waste and increase capacity, but then they miss a trick, because then they'll start saying, let's do the same with less, right? But they're missing the trick, because the trick is let's do more with the same. Because if you increase your capacity by, say, 10%, but then you increase your conversions by 10% using the other strategies, what have you done? You know, you're creating more products with the same labor. You're not getting more labor. So you're getting more sales, but then it's double profits because the labor is essentially free. So it's a double win. So the whole strategy, and you're going to make it quicker, better, faster. So your supply turnaround time, your lead time has reduced. So guess what happens? You invoice quicker, you get paid quicker, and there's more profit. So it's more cash flow, more profits, and it's the first stage in scaling your business. And you've done that without scaling your cost.
Quicker cash-to-cash cycle, quicker inventory turnover, and that's what all the companies are looking for. Great, Shay. And we have here Pragmata. Is works in I think in Walmart, and he's a good friend from India. Is saying it was cost-led pricing earlier, but now it's price-led. Well said, Pragmata. Well, guys, you have anything else to add? Isabella, Shay, Aravent, it's been really a great discussion today, and we have a lot of people coming in, leaving some great notes. So, what can we say to conclude this discussion? Just a word from each one of you.
Be systematic.
Yes.
Map it out. Predict success by mapping it out. There's no other way. Don't leave things to chance.
Isabella.
For me would be get involved and really rebuild and build strategic partnership, because you cannot do this alone. More than ever, strategic partnership with integrated leadership is the must in order to succeed. Great
point. Aravent.
So as I said, either it's B2B, B2C, B2B2C, or B2G, it's finally human selling to human.
Amazing. Yes, it's it's amazing. It's right. It's the emotional connection, the emotional bond with your consumer, with your customer. Like you said, it's human to human. And if you are selling one product, maybe you need to think about diversification. You need to think about new innovations. You need to think about if you really need to huge growth. You need to think about going the distance and going for high growth. Like for example, I always have this example when it comes to my mind, like Virgin, for example, when they were in a dying CD industry, they suddenly moved to like airplanes, they moved to telephone lines, and this is the leadership and how it goes and how they can save the company and think about growth. So it's about the diversification, thinking out of the box, I would say, and the collaboration, as we were talking, from all departments and cross-functional teams. this is to conclude from my end, and thank you so much, everybody who joined us. Thank you, team. Thank you, Dr. Future State, Shay Lynch. Thank you, Isabella. Thank you, Aravind. And thank you, Ahmed Khalid. He's present with us with his beautiful comments. And I'd like to thank you myself, Ahmed Hamsi, and the whole team of Matrix Momentum is thanking everybody.
Thank you for great hosting.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
See you in the next episode. Thank you, everybody.